All right, we're moving on to the 15th Sutra in Light of the Soul, or the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Non-attachment is freedom from longing for all objects of desire, either earthly or traditional, either here or hereafter. Non-attachment can also be described as thirstlessness. This is the most correct occult term to use, as it involves the dual idea of water, the symbol of material existence, and desire, the quality of the astral plane, whose symbol is also water. The idea of man being the fish is curiously complete here. This symbol, as is the case with all symbols, has 7 meanings. 2 are of use in this place. The fish is the symbol of the Vishnu aspect, the Christ principle, the second aspect of divinity, the Christ in incarnation, whether it is the cosmic Christ expressing himself through a solar system, or the individual Christ, the potential savior within each human being. This is the Christ in you, the hope of glory. If the student will also study the fish avatar of Vishnu, he will learn still more. And no doubt. The fish swimming in the waters of matter, an extension of the same idea, only carried down to its more obvious present expression, man as the personality. Where there is no longing for any object whatsoever, and where there is no desire for rebirth, ever the outcome of longing for the form expression or material manifestation, then the true thirstlessness is attained, and the liberated man turns his back upon all the forms in the lower 3 worlds and becomes a true savior. In the Bhagavad Gita, the following illuminating words are found. For the possessors of wisdom, united in soul vision, giving up the fruit of works, freed from the bondage of rebirth, reach the home where no sorrow dwells. When thy soul shall pass beyond the forest of delusion, thou shalt no more regard what shall be taught or what has been taught. When withdrawn from traditional teaching, thy soul shall stand steadfast, firm in soul vision, then shalt thou gain union with the soul. J.H. Woods makes this clear in his translation of the comment by Veda Vyasa, which is here appended. Passionless is the consciousness of being master on the part of one who has rid himself of thirst for either seen or revealed objects. The mind stuff, if it be rid of thirst for objects that are seen, such as women or food or drink or power, if it be rid of thirst for the object revealed in the Vedas, such as the attainment of heaven or of the discarnate state or of resolution into primary matter, if even when in contact with objects either supernormal or not, it be by virtue of elevation aware of the inadequateness of objects, will have a consciousness of being master. The word traditional carries the student's thought away from that which is usually regarded as the object of sensuous perception into the world of thought forms, into that forest of delusion which is constructed of men's ideas about God, heaven, or hell. The sublimation of all this in its highest expression in the 3 worlds is that Devachan, which is the goal of the majority of the sons of men. Devachanic experience must, however, be transformed eventually into nirvanic realization. It may be of value to the student to remember that heaven, the object of aspirational desire, which is the outcome of traditional teaching, and of all formulations of doctrinal faiths, has several meanings to the occultist. For the purpose of a clearer understanding, the following may be found to be of use. 1, heaven, that state of consciousness upon the astral plane, which is the concretion of the longing and desire of the aspirant for rest, peace, and happiness. It is based upon the forms of joy. It is a condition of sensuous enjoyment, and being constructed for himself by each individual is as varied as there are people participating in it. Non-attachment has to be achieved with respect to heaven. It is realized as enjoyed by the lower self and by the man when bereft only of his physical body prior to passing out of the astral body onto the mental plane. So there's a process of passing through after we leave the body. Devachan, the state of consciousness upon the mental plane, into which the soul passes when deprived of its astral body and functioning in or limited by its mental body. It is of a higher order than the ordinary heaven, and the bliss enjoyed is more mental than we ordinarily understand by the word, yet nevertheless, it is still within the lower world of form and will be transcended when non-attachment is known. It's a letting go process again, right? It'd be interesting if we have any recollection of this. Let me pause this for a second. Yeah, this is all very interesting stuff, but again, we have to continue to ask ourselves if we want to be in another illusion, right? Another more illusion, more dream worlds. So then we have 3, nirvana, that condition to which the adept passes when the 3 lower worlds are no longer attached to him through his inclinations or karma, in which he experiences after he has taken certain initiations, freed himself from 3 worlds, and organized his Christ body. Strictly speaking, those adepts who have achieved non-attachment, but who have chosen to sacrifice themselves and abide with the sons of men in order to serve and help them, are not technically nirvanis. They are lords of compassion, pledged to suffer with and to be governed by certain conditions analogous to, though not identical with, the conditions governing men who are still attached to the world of form. Right, and we can see this in the paths that we choose at certain levels and certain initiations, I guess. There's choices to be made at certain points. Okay. There's as far as this occult study, esoteric study goes in terms of energy and magnetism, I'm really, that's where I'm at, my mind is at right now. It's really, I'm thinking more in terms of magnetic response to the average, to the normal desires, and going through and I'm trying to formulate the words to tell people, hey, try to be aware of what you're drawn to. Just be aware of ourselves. Be aware of your actions throughout the day. Make all the subconscious, movement conscious, and then see what you're still attached to. Because it gets very wild when you realize, you can see you're not really attached to much, and then try to figure out if there's anything left that we are attached to. And this could be seen magnetically, and what we're magnetically drawn to, and what is occupying our mind, the mind. Where's the energy follows thought again, right? So where is our energy going, and what are you thinking about? 16, the consummation of this non-attachment results in an exact knowledge of the spiritual man when liberated from the qualities or gunas. Certain points should be remembered by the student when considering this sutra: that the spiritual man is the monad, or the Father in heaven, okay? As you see down here, the energy of spirit, or our Father, or the Father in heaven. That the evolutionary process, when carried to its climax, produces not only the freeing of the soul from the limitations of the three worlds, but the freeing of the spiritual man from all limitations, even that of the soul itself. The goal is formlessness, or freedom from objective and tangible manifestation, and the true significance of this becomes apparent as the student remembers the oneness of spirit and the matter when in manifestation. The oneness of, I'm sorry, I'm going to read that again. So I'm glad we catch all these things. The student remembers the oneness of spirit and matter when in manifestation. Our 7 planes are the 7 subplanes of the lowest cosmic plane, the physical. Consequently, only the time of the end and the dissolution of a solar system will reveal the true meaning of formlessness. Because it won't be here, right? I mean, the true meaning will be apparent, because there'll be, I don't know what the technical term, I don't know if that's a pralaya or what, but yeah, interesting. The gunas, so there won't be anywhere to go, essentially, right? I don't know as well. The gunas are the 3 qualities of matter, the 3 effects produced when macrocosmic energy, the life of God, which persists independently of form taking, actuates or energizes substance. Okay, here you go. The monad, ego, and personality, spirit, soul, and matter, harmonious vibration, mobility or activity, and inertia. Inertia is a very interesting seed thought for contemplation, and how that's viewed through this in relation to these, and how it is these, like this inertia. this tamasic nature, you may have heard that said by some of the Hindus. This is something that we hear the three gunas mentioned. These three correspond to the quality of each of the three aspects which express the one life. And again, we have the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And then also you could say mother, right? And positive and negative. Proton, neutron, or an electrons. I'm not sure how that would actually work out. So you would have, actually, well, I looked it up, you would have the proton, neutron, and electron. So positive and negative. And everything has that polarity, right? We know that, so that's a given. In such a brief commentary as this, not negative in the way that we take negative, it's just a polarity. And if we're studying this, I assume we already know that. But when we're talking to others and we say, this has the female has the negative quality, we don't mean negative. We don't mean that in the personality way. We mean that in the the polarity way, like the yin and yang. All right. So, in such a brief commentary as this perforce it is not possible to enlarge to any extent upon this subject, but some idea can be gained as to what is meant by the consummation of non-attachment when applied to the macrocosm or the microcosm. The three gunas have all been used. Full experience through the use of form has been acquired. Consciousness, perception, or awareness through attachment to an object or to form has been developed. All resources have been utilized, and the spiritual man, egoic or human, has no further use or need for them. And this, I'm sorry, and here he is therefore free from the gunas, released from the form taking as the result of attachment, and enters into a new state of consciousness upon which it is useless for us to speculate. And this is the premise for this, is that the soul gathers the essence of experience. And then as we progress through, we no longer, we've checked all the blocks. We've been attached to everything. We've also let everything go. And then now we see what we don't need it anymore necessarily, so we let it go. And then it's a constant process after we've gained lots of life experience to begin to let these things go. So then the question becomes, and this is throughout every practice just about, is what are you holding on to? Even, Zen says, let go or get dragged, right? So what are we holding on to? And then it's up to us to be conscious of those things and make the move to let go of them. And then in letting go of them, they don't go anywhere. You're just not magnetically attracted to them to the point to where you desire them. That doesn't mean that they aren't involved. These things aren't in our life. They're still in the mind. They're still in our daily experience. And in the outer expression, you still interact with them. There's no magnetic attraction to them where you're not going to be lusting. I don't know, lusting is a bad word, but it's the best word I can think of right now. We're not going to be all lusting over these things. You're going to be interacting with them, but it's all in an intelligent way, and it's all in a conscious way. It's not that, you're going to be able to, there's control, and it's not real control. It's the intelligent use of these things, because you are literally not pulled to them anymore, which is very interesting to witness, and you can witness these things. Like, for instance, like if you used to drink alcohol and you don't drink alcohol anymore, now, do you have any desire to drink alcohol? Or is it completely just absolutely gone? Because if you have, if we're pulled towards it and we stop ourselves from doing it, those are different things. When you're released from it, you're released from it. Then there's no magnetic attraction at all. It's not that, oh, look at me, I'm sitting in a bar around all these people that are drinking and I'm not drinking. There's absolutely no attachment. You wouldn't do it if it was the last thing to drink. You wouldn't want it. If everyone said, it's okay, you still wouldn't want it. It's very interesting, these attachments, and how they fade off, and then they're just gone. And then you stand, I want to say you stand free of the astral pulls to them. Now, I don't know if that all happens at one time and you're really freed from all desire at once after having controlled and tested this out. I don't know. I can't say if we're released one by one, or if we're released from the astral plane altogether. And then it all falls below the threshold. And now you're polarized, maybe on the mental plane. And I want to say that that's what is noted in the books, in Initiation Human and Solar, and in White Magic, and these other books, as taking place at some point after the second initiation, I want to say. I think, I'm pretty sure, because that's when you're released from the astral plane. And we talked about this earlier, where the aspirant will say, there is no astral plane, because you're completely free from all pull to the things here. But then, we're still subject. That doesn't mean we're completely free, because we're still subject to the illusions and all. So we do have, we're not, there's never not work to be done, right? Okay, so I went off on a tangent talking about roles or sutras, the 16th sutra there. But let's get into 17. The consciousness of an object is attained by concentration on its fourfold nature: the form through examination, the quality through discriminative participation, the purpose through inspiration or bliss, and the soul through identification. It will be apparent, therefore, that the statement, as a man thinketh, so is he, is based on occult facts. Now, this is about to get very interesting. Every form of any kind has a soul, and that soul or conscious principle is identical with that in a human form. Identical in its nature, though not in its scope of development or its degree. This is equally true of the great lives or superhuman existences in which man himself lives and moves and has his being, and to whose state of development he aspires. As the aspirant chooses with care the objects upon which he will meditate, he, through these objects, builds himself a ladder by means of which he arrives eventually at the objectless. As his mind assumes increasingly the meditative attitude of the soul, the brain becomes also increasingly subjugated to the mind, as the mind is to the soul. Thus is the lower man gradually identified with the spiritual man who is omniscient and omnipresent. This meditative attitude is assumed through a fourfold process. Meditation on the nature of a particular form, realizing, as the form is pondered upon, that it is but a symbol of an inner reality, our whole tangible objective world being built up of form of some kind, human, superhuman, or subhuman and superhuman, which expresses the life of hosts of sentient beings. Yeah, so we're, on the mental plane, we should see the meaning of the symbols, right? That's as the form is pondered upon, that it is but a symbol, right? And we should be able to see the symbol on the mental plane for what it is, and our whole tangible objective world being built up of form. So this which expresses the life of hosts of sentient beings. And then there can be this identification with what we're talking about here earlier. As a man thinketh, so he is, and that all this up top here, right, that we had gone over. We can put these together. And then two, meditation upon the quality of any particular form, so that an appreciation of its subjective energy may be gained. So now we're going through the three ways to look at them that we talked about again. Up here, right? Because we're looking at the quality now. So we looked at the form through examination. Now I have the quality through discriminative participation. It should be borne in mind that the energy of an object may be regarded as the color of that object. And hence the words of Patanjali, it's like 4:17, become illuminating in this connection and serve as a commentary upon this second point. This is called discriminative participation, and through it, the student arrives at that knowledge of energy in himself, which is one with the object of his meditation. Discriminative participation. So we're really talking very much just, very much energetic. We're getting much more subtle. Things are becoming more subtle at this point. 3, meditation upon the purpose of any particular form. This involves consideration of the idea back of or underlying any form manifestation and its display of energy. This realization carries the aspirant onward to a knowledge of that part in the plan or purpose of the all, which is the motivating factor in the form's activity. Thus, through the part, the whole is contacted and an expansion of consciousness takes place involving bliss or joy. Beatitude always follows upon realization of the unity of the part with the whole. From meditation upon the tattvas, the energies or principles, or upon the tanmatras, or elements composing spirit matter, and knowledge of the purpose or plan for the microcosmic or macrocosmic manifestations eventuates, and with this knowledge comes bliss. Yeah, I mean, you can see that this is easier said than done, because this is going to be a very individual type of a thing, and there has to be that ultimate, that at one-ment to be had there in order to realize that. But we can see it's being said that this can be done, right? So we can do this. We can zoom in. Very interesting here. So in these 3 are to be found correspondences to the 3 aspects, spirit, soul, and body, and an illuminating study for the earnest student. Okay. Spirit, soul, and body. And I think, and what we just did, and this is reversed. So this one's spirit, this one's soul, and this one's body, right? Now, and then we have meditation upon the soul, upon the one who uses the form, who energizes it into activity, and who is working in line with the plan. This soul, being one with all souls and with the oversoul, subserves the one plan and is group conscious. Thus, through these 4 stages of meditation upon an object, the aspirant arrives at his goal, knowledge of the soul and of the soul powers. He becomes consciously identified with the one reality, and this in his physical brain. He finds that truth which is himself, and which is the truth hidden in every form and in every kingdom of nature. Thus, he will eventually arrive at knowledge of the all soul and become one with it. Eventually arrive at when knowledge of the soul itself is gained at a knowledge of the all soul, soul, and become one with it. So this is confirming the stance of just about all of the, you could say, the non-dual schools, Advaita, the Ramana Maharshi. I remember him saying, because I had studied, that for a while. I remember hearing, saying, this, it's basically, you have to think your way out of this. And what do you mean by think your way out of this is contemplate, meditate upon, and really look at these particular aspects in this. And this is I want to say this is a really deep sutra. And there's so much implied in here because we're doing lots of meditating and contemplating here. And as we're told in this book, I believe it was earlier, we raise our meditation to the point of contemplation. We're not raising our meditation into the point of no mind or no thought or no brain or nothing. We're to, basically pull apart the contents and evaluate the contents of the mind and come to, knowledge of it. I can take 1 second here. Okay, I had to take a break there for a little bit, but we're back and we're getting into Sutra 18. A further stage of samadhi is achieved when, through one pointed thought, the outer activity is quieted. In this stage, the citta, or mind stuff, is responsive only to subjective impressions. The word samadhi is subject to various interpretations and is applied to different stages of yogi achievement. Or yogi or union. This makes it somewhat difficult for the average student when studying the various commentaries. Perhaps one of the easiest ways to realize its meaning is to remember that the word sama has reference to the faculty of the mind stuff, or citta, to take form or to modify itself according to the external impressions. These external impressions reach the mind via the senses. When the aspirant to yoga can control his organs of sense perception so that they no longer telegraph to the mind their reactions to that which is perceived, two things are brought about. The physical brain becomes quiet and still, and the mind stuff, or the mental body, the citta, ceases to assume the various modifications and becomes equally still. This is one of the early stages of samadhi, but is not the samadhi of the adept. It is a condition of intense internal activity instead of external. It is an attitude of one-pointed concentration. The aspirant is, however, responsive to impressions from the subtler realms and to modifications arising from those perceptions which are still more subjective. He becomes aware of a new field of knowledge, though as yet he knows not what it is. He ascertains that there is a world which cannot be known through the medium of the five senses, but which the right use of the organ of the mind will reveal. He gets a perception of what may lie back of the words found in a later sutra, as translated by Charles Johnson, which expresses this thought in particularly clear terms. The seer is pure vision. He looks out through the vesture of the mind. The preceding sutra dealt with what may be called meditation with seed, meditation with seed or with an object. This sutra suggests the next stage, meditation without seed or without that which the physical brain would recognize as an object. It might be of value here if the 6 stages of meditation dealt with by Patanjali are mentioned, as they give a clue to the entire process of unfoldment dealt with in this book. And we have aspiration, concentration, meditation, contemplation, illumination, and inspiration. You know, in a way, you can see this as invocation, 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 evocation, evocation, evocation. And that's just my take. Or you can see it as invocation, evocation, invocation, evocation. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a value here to note that the student begins by aspiring to that which lies beyond his ken and ends by being inspired by that which he has sought to know. Concentration or intense focusing results in meditation, and meditation flowers forth as contemplation. All right, so that's so now we're progressing through this. All right, 19. The samadhi just described passes not beyond the bounds of the phenomenal world. It passes not beyond the gods and those concerned with the concrete world. And our goal is to pass beyond them, right? So it should be noted here that the results achieved in the process is dealt with in Sutras 17 and 18 only carry the aspirant to the edge of the realm of the soul, to the new field of knowledge of which he has become aware. He is still confined to the 3 worlds. All that he has succeeded in doing is stilling the modifications of the mental body so that for the first time, the man on the physical plane and in the physical brain becomes cognizant of what lies beyond those 3 worlds. That is the soul, its range of vision, and its knowledge. So now we're getting an idea of what is contained on the mental plane. What is in the mind? What is in the collective? What are the essences that have been gathered from past incarnations on the physical plane? He has yet to strengthen his link with the soul dealt with in the Sutras 23 and 28. And then having transferred his consciousness into that of the real or spiritual man, he must begin working from that new standpoint or vantage point. The idea has been expressed by some translators as the condition in which the aspirant becomes aware of the rain cloud of knowable things. The rain cloud has not precipitated sufficiently for the rain to fall from heavenly heights onto the physical plane, or for the knowable things to become known to the physical brain. The cloud is perceived as the result of intense concentration and the stilling of the lower modifications, but until the soul or master has assumed control, the knowledge of the soul cannot be poured into the physical brain via the 6th sense, the mind. So this transference is key here, right? Where did I see that? Where did I get that from? Oh, transfer, yeah, then having transferred his consciousness into that of the real or spiritual man. So that's the key. When the soul or master has assumed control, the knowledge of the soul can be poured into the physical brain via the sixth sense, the mind. The science of yoga is a real science, and only as students approach it by the correct stages and employ the scientific methods will the true samadhi or realization be achieved. All right, number 20, Sutra 20, or the 20th Sutra. Other yogins achieve samadhi and arrive at a discrimination of pure spirit through belief, followed by energy, memory, meditation, and right perception. I would imagine this has something to do with the ray of that soul, or the ray of the monadic ray and the soul ray. And that would definitely, I think that would have something to do with this, or just their place in evolution. So in the previous groups of yogins dealt with, perception was limited to the phenomenal world, though we must understand by that only the three worlds of mental perception, astral perception, and of the physical senses. That's the lower three on the chart, the Constitution of Man chart, which I believe is also in the notes. I include that in the notes of all the videos. So we should be able to reference that. And as I've said, I have that printed out, and and it's 18 by 36 or something. And I literally sit quite often, probably daily. I'm not saying I have a schedule or anything, but I look at that daily and contemplate on the reading for the day, because ultimately everything that we read throughout the day can be put essentially into that chart. 1 second, somebody's at my door. Got a ring, and that is UPS was here. So referencing that chart is quite helpful. So let's dig into this, and we'll see where this all falls here. In the previous groups of the yogins dealt with, perception was limited to the phenomenal world, though we must understand but that only the three worlds of mental perception, astral perception, and of the physical senses. The energies producing concretion and the motive power of thought as it produces effects on the physical plane are contacted and known. Here, however, the yogin translates himself into more spiritual and subtler realms and becomes aware of that which the self in its true nature perceives and knows. He enters into the world of causes, as where the mental plane has the world of meaning, word and symbol. He enters into the world of causes. The first group might be regarded as comprising all who are treading the path of discipleship, and covers the time from their entrance upon the probationary path until they have taken the second initiation. Second group is comprised of those higher disciples who, having controlled and transmuted the entire lower nature, make a contact with their monad, spirit, or Father in heaven, and discern what that monad perceives. Okay, so I believe what he's saying here is The first group is the group that's perceiving the mental, astral, and physical senses. That's those of us in the lower three worlds, and then there's those who, after the second initiation, are beginning to see apparently the higher and what the monad perceives. This first form of realization comes to those who are in process of synthesizing the 6 lower centers into the head center through the transmutation of the lower 4 into the higher 3, and then of the heart and throat into the head. The second group, through a knowledge of the law, works with all the transmuted and purified centers. Okay. They know how to achieve the real samadhi, or state of occult abstraction, through their ability to withdraw the energies into the 1,000-petaled lotus of the head, and from thence to abstract them through the other 2 subtler bodies until all is centered and focused in the causal vehicle, the Karana Sarira, the egoic lotus. We are told by Patanjali that this is produced by the following 5 stages. Students should bear in mind that these stages relate to soul activities, to egoic realization, and not to the reactions of the lower man and the physical brain. These are soul activities. The soul is the soul is the one who takes the initiations, right? The soul is the aspirant. So, this is interesting here, and this puts it in a different perspective for us. All right, let's keep this going. One, we have belief here. And these are the stages. All right, so the student should bear in mind that these stages relate to soul activities, to egoic realization, and not to the reactions of the lower man, the physical brain. 1, we have belief. On his own plane, the soul rehearses a condition analogous to the belief of the aspirant in the soul or Christ aspect. Only in this case, the objective is the realization of that which the Christ or soul is seeking to reveal, the Spirit or Father in heaven. All right, we're going to read this again. This is very profound stuff here. On his own plane, the soul rehearses a condition analogous to the belief of the aspirant in the soul or Christ aspect. The soul is the initiate, and yet we're talking. All right. And that maybe that's it. The soul is the initiate. The soul is. So on his own plane, the soul rehearses a condition analogous to the belief of the aspirant in the soul or Christ aspect in the soul. Let's just say in the soul. Or in this case, the objective is the realization of that which the Christ is seeking to reveal, the Spirit or Father in heaven. All right, so the human, like the lower 3 is seeking to reveal the Christ, and then the Christ is seeking to reveal the Father. All right, so there's a reflection of a reflection. First, the disciple arrives at a realization of the angel of his presence. the angel of his presence. And we're used to seeing an angel of the presence. So let's say the angel of his presence, the solar angel, ego, or soul. This is the achievement of the previous group. Then the presence itself is later contacted, and that presence is pure spirit, the absolute, the father of being. Okay, now we've got it. So this world is revealing the Christ or the soul. The soul or the Christ is seeking to reveal the Father or the monad. The self and the not self have been known by this group of initiates. Okay. Now the vision of the not self, the lower three, the personality, dims and passes away, and only spirit is known. Belief must ever be the first stage. First the theory, then the experiment, and lastly realization. And that's where we're seeking to get to is realization, right? Energy, when the theory is grasped, when the goal is perceived, then activity ensues. That right activity and that correct use of force, which will bring the goal nearer and make theory fact. So now we have this energy and we have intention, it seems, intention. So we have tension, energy, intention. And now we've got, and then we're going down to memory or right mindfulness. So now right activity, right mindfulness. This is an interesting factor in the process as it involves right forgetfulness or the elimination out of the consciousness of the ego of all those forms which have hitherto veiled the real. These forms are either self-chosen or self-created. This leads to a condition of true apprehension or the ability to register correctly that which the soul has perceived and the power to transfer that correct perception to the brain of the physical man. This is the memory referred to here. This is science. It does not refer so specifically to recollection of the things of the past, but covers the point of realization and the transference of that realization to the brain, where it must be registered and eventually recollected at will. And this at will being out of time, not in the brain, more omniscient, essentially. And then we have meditation. This which has been seen and registered in the brain and which has emanated from the soul must be meditated upon and thus woven into the fabric of the life. It is through this meditation that the soul perceptions become real to the man upon the physical plane. The meditation, therefore, is of a very high order as it follows upon the contemplative stage and is soul meditation with the object of illuminating the vehicle upon the physical plane. And I want to say this is the meditation that we're doing all day for the essential, at some point. Not that we don't meditate, not that I don't meditate. But that state of meditation should be really constant by now. Right perception. So we got belief, energy, memory, meditation, right perception. And we're going through the invocation, evocation process again, essentially. The experience of the soul and the knowledge of the spirit of the Father aspects begin to form part of the brain content of the adept or master. He knows the plan as it is to be found on the highest levels and is in touch with the archetype. it is, if I might illustrate in this way, that this class of yogins have reached the point where they can perceive the plan as it exists in the mind of the grand architect of the universe, and not just a guess. They are now in rapport with him. In the other class of yogins, the point reached is that in which they are able to study the blueprints of the great plan and thus can intelligently cooperate in the building of the temple of the Lord. The perception referred to here is of such a high order as to be almost inconceivable to any but advanced disciples. But in an appreciation of the stages and grades, there comes to the aspirant not only an understanding of what is his immediate problem and of where he stands, but also an appreciation of the beauty of the entire scheme. Boy, if that's not one to pause the video at and really contemplate on for a minute there. I mean, really all of them, but you know how we can't grasp what this is saying essentially at the high levels. So there's not too much to contemplate. We can't know what we don't know. We just keep doing the work, and eventually this is what comes of it. We keep building the Antakarana, essentially. We keep learning what's in the mind. We keep moving forward. We stay in the light. We hold steady in the light. All right. I'll do the last one for today. The attainment of this stage of spiritual consciousness is rapid for those whose will is intensely alive. I know it's been said that HPB, or H.P. Blavatsky was really identified or with the will aspect. I think we said that earlier, maybe even. If not in this book, it was certainly in Glamour. So back to this real quick. So other yogins achieve samadhi and arrive at discrimination of pure spirit. This has a lot to do with our structure and how we learn and where we're at. How much contemplation work, or how much meditation contemplation work I think probably we've done, or just where we're at in terms of on the mental plane and whatnot. Well, we absorb this and hopefully it will be at some point synthesized and assimilated and will come together for us. This would naturally be so. Whose will is intensely alive, spiritual consciousness would naturally be so. As the will reflected in the mind becomes dominant in the disciple, he has awakened that aspect of himself, which is in rapport with the will aspect of the logos, the first or father aspect. The lines of contact are as follows. We have 1, the monad or father in heaven, the will aspect, Atma or spiritual will, the highest aspect of the soul. 3, the mental body or intelligent will, the highest aspect of the personality. And then we have the head center. I guess I can kind of see that there a little bit. This is the line followed by the Raja Yogins, and it brings them to a realization of the spirit and to adeptship. There is yet another line. We have the Father, the Son or the Christ aspect, the love aspect or wisdom, love wisdom. And what we call this, if we haven't discussed this and you hadn't heard this before, the love aspect is demonstrated as wisdom. Right? They're synonymous. They go together. And that's worthy of a contemplation in and of itself. And then, so the monad, the Son or the Christ aspect, the love wisdom aspect, Buddhi or spiritual love, the second aspect of the soul, and the emotional body, the second aspect of the personality. All right, so now we're going up to 2, 4, 6, or 2, 4, 6. I'm sorry, 2, 4, 6. And these 3 here being the 2, and then that being the 4 and the 6. Yeah. On the chart again. Right, so this is something that can be pretty much everything we talk about can be correlated and plugged into the chart. And then we have the heart center here, down here, 5, emotional body. So through the heart, we're working with, it's interesting, through the heart, we're working with the positive. Through the head, we're working with the 5, 1, 3. I guess I don't know if we can actually say that, but the will has the 1, 3, 5 and the 2, 4, 6. Very interesting stuff there. So this is the line followed by the bhakti or the devotee and the saint, and brings him to a knowledge of the soul and of the sainthood. The former line is that to be followed by our Aryan race. The second line was the path of attainment for the Atlanteans. And yeah, interesting there. If students would follow these tabulations with care, much light would come. And it was said during the Atlantean time, the 4th initiation was what was aimed for. That was getting to the Buddhic plane, to the intuition. And then in this Aryan race, we're going to the 5th initiation, which is what we're talking about right here. This bringing us to the 3rd aspect. Don't listen to me. I'm working through this myself. This is awesome. I mean, it's awesome stuff, but I got to work through it too. I got to contemplate my way through it and we got to meditate our way through this stuff. And Just know that it all fits. It does all fit. And just to give you an example, it may take weeks for some of the things I mean, it could take longer than that. It could take months and weeks for these things to get assimilated, but it does. That we work. We don't look for results. That's what has always been said. I held on. We hold on to that, and we continue to move, and we don't look back, and it works. So. I want to say this is the more occult. This is more mystical. This is more occult. And in this day and age, we are meant to be on this path, I want to say. So, if students would follow these tabulations, much light would come. The necessity for a strong, energetic will becomes apparent if the path of initiation is studied. And that's, can be studied very quickly through, initiation, human and solar, raising initiations, and treatise on white magic. From Bethlehem to Calvary, it's outlined very clearly. And then, the goal then is to correlate it with the Constitution of Man chart and then the rays. And then we're starting to have a much bigger idea. Only an iron will and a steady, strong, unswerving endurance will carry the aspirant along this path and out into the clear light of day. So, and will, meaning, whose will is intensely alive. And the will being the first aspect, right? Especially when it's in a capital there. All right, we're going to call it there for today. We'll pick up with the 22nd tomorrow. All right, have a good one. Thanks, everybody.